Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, thumma amma ba'd. To proceed, today inshallah we will go over station 97. We're there, almost there. Have 3 more stations. Station number 97, which is the station of al-Tajreed or stripping. The Shaykh here started by a verse like usual, and he said, قال الله عز وجل فاخلع عليك. Allah the Almighty said, so remove your sandals. Remove your sandals. Stripping, remove your sandals. The sort of the superficial suitability is obvious, but it is beyond this. It is not that superficial. The Shaykh wanted to say that there are certain places, certain spaces, certain stations, certain levels that have prerequisites. To ascend to them, to occupy them, to enter them, you have to fulfill the prerequisites. So to get the blessings of the sacred valley, Tuwa, Musa alayhi salam needed to fulfill the prerequisites. Of the prerequisites is to take off his shoes. This could be a sign of humbleness, a sign of humility. It could also be because to get the blessings of the sacred valley, so that his body touches the land of the sacred valley, so that you could receive the blessings. It could also be, it could also be, some of the Mufassirun said that his sandals were not clean, or they made out of sort of a type of leather that was not permissible. Anyway, but these are speculations, I guess. The Prophet ﷺ did not tell us that. And the reason certainly some of the Mufassirun may have said that because we pray in our shoes, and that does not take away from our humbleness or humility. In fact, it is sunnah to pray in one's shoes, as the Prophet ﷺ indicated, as the Prophet ﷺ said. So that's why the Mufassirun may have said that. But anyway, the relevance, the pertinence is obvious. The Shaykh wants to say there are certain spaces that you cannot enter, you will not be invited to until you meet the requirements, you fulfill the prerequisites. And Tajreed is a prerequisite. To ascend beyond this point, you need to have complete Tajreed. And Tajreed would be, the Shaykh says here, التجريد انخلاع عن شهود الشواهد وهو على 3 درجات. Stripping refers to the departure from beholding the indicants, and it is of 3 levels. Departure from beholding the indicants, because you're beholding the realities, you are not anymore beholding the indicants. You're beholding the very realities. So, انخلاع عن شهود الشواهد, Tajreed is basically departure from beholding the indicants. Stripping is what we used for translation. Tajreed comes from jarada, that is the 3-lettered word, Jim, Ra, Dal, and it has to do with disposition, it has to do with stripping, it has to do with emptiness, it has to do. So why is it that we, for instance, so let's have some examples of the word tajreed, or the sort of related meanings. When you say Sahara Jarda, a barren desert, what do you mean by this? It is empty, doesn't have any plants. When you say Sama Jarda, means empty sky, doesn't have any huyum, doesn't have any clouds. When you say Tajarrud, for instance. When you say tajarrud, that means, how do we translate tajarrud? Impartiality. Where is it coming from? Why is it impartiality? When you say insan mutajarrid, he's impartial. Impartial, he's not partial to himself, not partial to his biases, not partial to his self-interest, not partial to his self-interest. So he is able to remove his self-interest. He is able to keep away his self-interest and biases. So he's mutajarrid, he is impartial. When you say jarrada sayfahu, he took his sword out of the sheath, so stripped it, removed it from the sheath, and so on. So, you know, it has to do with these, it has to do with stripping, it has to do with disposition, it has to do with abstraction, because abstraction means what? That you ascend away from the particulars. So jarrat, you could say jarrad al-kitab, you could say jarrad al-mas'ala, to remove all these, the sort of extraneous issues or extraneous discussions that are foreign or not inherent to the subject matter of the book. Jarrad al-kitab also could mean to remove the tashkil, you know, from the book. So the concept is clear, and the Prophet ﷺ talked about al-qalb al-ajrad, right? There is a hadith that is reported by Tabarani and Mu'jam and Imam Ahmad from Abi Sa'id al-Khudri, and it was also reported from Hudhaifa, and the one that is traceable to Hudhaifa is actually stronger than the one that's traceable to the Prophet ﷺ, but even if it is traceable to Hudhaifa, we would presume that he heard it from the Prophet ﷺ, because it is not something that Hudhaifa could basically deduce or figure out on his own. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-qulubu arba'a," and that's a very beautiful hadith, and the different types of hearts. He says, "Al-qulub arba'a, فقلب أجرد فيه سراج يزهر وسراجه فيه نوره وقلب أغلف مربوط على غلافه وهذا قلب فقلب أجرد فيه سراج يزهر وهذا قلب المؤمن وسراجه فيه نوره وقلب أغلف مربوط على غلافه وهذا قلب الكافر وقلب منكوس فهذا قلب منافق عرف ثم أنكر وقلب مصفح فيه مادتان مادة إيمان ومادة نفاق فمثل مادة الإيمان فيه كمثل البقلة يمدها ماء طيب ومثل مادة النفاق فيه كمثل القرحة يمدها صديد ودم فأيهما غلبت صاحبتها غلبت عليه. So the Prophet ﷺ said that there are 4 different types of heart. The qalb ajrad, a heart that is ajrad means what here? How will you translate ajrad? We translate it as pure. We translate it as pure. It means stripped. It means dispossessed. It means that it is a heart that has basically cleared itself of its biases, its self-interests, its flaws. Heart that completely moved its weeds. And cleared itself of all the biases and the flaws. It's heart that is ready for growth and so on. So it's qalb ajrad. We translate it usually as pure, but you know where it is coming from. It comes from tajreed, it comes from removing the biases, the self-interests, removing the flaws, takhalli, so to get rid of the flaws and the diseases and the ailments and so on. And then he said, وَقَلْبٌ فهذا قلب المنافق. We said قلب أجرد فيه سراج يزهر فهذا قلب المؤمن وسراجه فيه نوره. The heart that is pure and it has a shining lamp, that is the heart of the believer, and the lamp in it is the light that's in the heart of the believer. وقلب أغلف مربوط على غلافه فهذا قلب الكافر, and a heart that is sealed and the seal is tied, so it's heart that's completely sealed and the seal is tied, and that's the heart of the kafir that is unable to receive any light, unable to receive any benefit, because he's covered with his biases, with his mawruth, inherited beliefs, with his taqleed, blind following, with his tahayyuzat, so biases, as we said, with self-interest, etc. So he's covered with so many things that it is completely sealed, that there is no way for the light to enter that heart. And then the Shaykh said, astaghfirullah, the Prophet ﷺ said, وَقَلْبٌ, the third one is وَقَلْبٌ مَنْكُوس فَهَذَا قَلْبٌ مُنَافِقٌ عَرَفَ ثُمَّ أَنْكَرَ, and a heart that is upside down, and that's the heart of the munafiq. He knows the truth, or he knew the truth, and then he denied it or rejected it. So he had some goodness, but then it was turned upside down, lost it. And then he said وَقَلْبٌ مُصَفَّحٌ, and musaffah is not easy. It's not very easy to figure out what exactly the Prophet ﷺ meant by this, but it is mixed up. It is a heart that is mixed up, because from the explanation it is clear that he's talking about a heart that is mixed up, or a heart that has two sides, and it sort of alternates between them. A heart that is not stable in one station or in one condition. And qalb al-musaffah, the Prophet ﷺ said about this heart, فيه تمده مادة فيه مادتان مادة إيمان ومادة نفاق. It is a heart that has two elements, an element of nifaq and an element of iman, an element of faith and an element of hypocrisy. The likeness or the parable of the element of faith in it is like a baqla, or vegetation herb, good plant, good small plant, that is being supplied by good water. يَمُدُّهَا مَاءٌ طَيِّبٌ, being supplied by good water. It thrives on good water. And the parable of the element of nifaq in it, or is like qurha, like an ulcer, that thrives on pus and blood, So whichever one overtakes the other would overtake that heart, the good water or the pus and blood. And so there is certainly a hint here that you should be standing guard on your heart all the time to remove the pus and blood and to bring in the good water. It's tahalli and takhalli. It is tahalli and takhalli, to remove the pus and the blood and to bring in the good water and adorn your heart, tahalli, with these virtues and these good deeds. So that is, related to the concept of tajreed, al-qalb al-ajrad. It is related to the concept of tajreed. Stripping, disposition, abstraction, but more stripping and disposition here than abstraction. الدرجة الأولى, then the Shaykh will start to talk about the different levels of tajreed, and he says الدرجة الأولى تجريد عين الكشف عن كسب اليقين. تجريد عين الكشف عن كسب اليقين. The first level is stripping the real disclosure of the earned certainty. The first level is stripping the real disclosure of the earned certainty. The earned certainty, kasb al-yaqeen, the certainty that you have earned this certainty by what? Rational inquiry. You have learned this certainty by being alert, by being observant, by rational inquiry, looking around you, contemplating the creation, the heavens and the earth, contemplating life and the, learning that it is transient and, and coming to a great level of certainty that there has to be a hereafter, there has to be a meaning, there has to be a purpose, there has to be a hereafter, there has to be a creator. This is kasb al-yaqeen. It is acquired certainty. It is yaqeen that you have earned through contemplation, through reflection. This is beautiful. This is great. This is important. But he wants you, once you have the experiential faith and you have the real disclosure, and that is basically the light that is instilled in your heart by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where the divine discloses himself to you, that is to the eyes of your heart. He wants you to not overshadow that experience with your acquired certainty, or to not mix that experience with your acquired certainty. So he wants you to basically strip your disclosure of your own certainty, your acquired certainty, because your acquired certainty is about you, the disclosure is about him. This was his gift to you. And your acquired certainty is your own work, is the product of your own work. And as you know, what the Shaykh has been trying to get us to do is trying to get us to get rid of ourselves, and tries to get us to own our ego and ourselves and our work and so on. But certainly we have to understand that this acquired certainty is our way. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has demanded of us to reflect, to contemplate, to, the signs of Allah in His universe, al-ayat al-manzura, al-ayat al-mastura. Al-ayat al-manzura, the observed signs in the universe, al-ayat al-mastura, the written signs in His book. And that is our way to certainty. Your way to certainty is basically reflection on al-ayat al-manzura, the observed signs in the universe, and al-ayat al-mastura, the written signs in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But certainly with experiential faith, people can ascend beyond that acquired certainty to having that type of certainty that is not contingent upon science, not dependent on science. Then the Shaykh says, وَالدَّرَجَةُ الثَّانِيَةُ تَجْرِيدُ عَيْنِ الْجَمْعَ عَنْ دَرْكِ الْعِلْمِ. The second level is stripping the real union of the apprehension of knowledge. Stripping the real union of the apprehensions of knowledge. Apprehensions of knowledge. دَرْكِ الْجَمْعَ al-ilm. Okay, so what does he mean here? He wants to say that when you are in the presence of the Lord, Ayn al-Jama, your togetherness with the Lord, in the presence of the Lord, al-Hadra al-Ilahiyya, don't allow your knowledge to spoil that experience. That's what he wants to say. That is not to deny that knowledge, that is not to basically not respect the knowledge, defy the knowledge and the purports of the knowledge, not to make benefit of the knowledge. It is not a departure, it is basically an ascension with the knowledge. You ascend to a different level with your knowledge. But he wants to point out, like we have done so many times in the past, because he always brought this up, and it is very beneficial, particularly for the students of knowledge, to understand that knowledge could be an impediment, that knowledge could be qata tariq, although it is by default your way, a means to the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a qurba, it's a means to closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It brings you closer to Allah, makes you more watchful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and more pious, and gives you, makes you more muttaqi and so on. But knowledge has flaws, And there are so many flaws of knowledge. Ibn al-Jawzi talks about them in detail. Many scholars talked about the flaws of knowledge, the problems of knowledge. Knowledge can lead to technicality, to legalism, to arrogance also. We see this often. You see students of knowledge that are busy all the time, sort of critiquing others. And criticism is, polemics and criticism is part of what the scholars do. You'll have to basically point out deviation, but when you are too busy doing this, particularly when it is misplaced criticism, too busy doing this and not paying enough attention to yourself, or you're not paying enough attention even to like a more warranted criticism, so many people around you don't pray. Why don't you just get a little busier inviting the people to praying and to, giving up their lifestyles of heedlessness and so on and so forth? Why is it that you're picking on some of your fellow students of knowledge? So anyway, the flaws of knowledge are clear. The Shaykh wants us to move away from that, and wants us also to understand that what the purports of knowledge are floors, not ceilings. Because what knowledge teaches us, particularly the knowledge of fiqh, what it teaches us is what? Rights and obligations. It teaches us haram and halal. These are floors, not ceilings. Because there is beyond this, وَلَا تَنْسَوُا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ, is beyond this graciousness. And there is no ceiling for graciousness. You could be more and more and more. So, but these are floors. When we talk about rights and obligations, when we talk about justice, when we talk about fairness is a floor. But if you're too occupied with fairness and justice, you will be distracted from virtue and graciousness. You will be distracted. You will stay there, be busy sort of with, figuring out what is just, what is fair. Even in your relationships, all of your relationships, if you're too busy figuring out what is just, you will be distracted from what is gracious, what is virtuous. But anyway, the Shaykh wants you at this level to dispossess or to strip of the apprehensions of your knowledge, because now you are in the real union, in your togetherness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And people who ascend to these levels, they go way beyond knowledge. It is not like they go away from knowledge, but they go way beyond knowledge, above knowledge. They ascend. والدرجة الثالثة تجريد الخلاص من شهود التجريد. The third level is purifying the deliverance from beholding the stripping. تجريد الخلاص من شهود التجريد. الدرجة الثالثة تجريد الخلاص من شهود التجريد. The third level is purifying the deliverance from beholding the stripping. And this is obvious, Shaykh. This is self-annihilation, self-dissolution. And if there is self-dissolution, there is no I anymore. And if there is no I, there is no my. And if there is no my, then you will not look at your stripping. There is no, because you're not there. You're only at this level. You're only beholding the Lord, His attributes, and His divine essence, and you're not conscious, aware. And it's like I said before. This is about mental conception. It's not about ontological reality. It is about mental conception. And in your mental conception, there is no you anymore, and if there is no you, there is nothing that is yours, and you're not seeing your own stripping. All the work that you have done, all the disposition that you have done, dispossessed your biases, dispossessed your self-interest, the flaws of your heart. You cleared yourself of all of this. You stripped of all of this. You stripped your heart of all of this. All of this work, you're not seeing it, and you're not being distracted by it, because it is your work. And as long as you're seeing your work, you're seeing yourself, and if you're seeing yourself, you have not achieved complete self-annihilation and complete self-dissolution. In your mental conception, as we said, so you have not reached the level of fana yet that the Shaykh desires of you to reach at this level, which is the third level. And as we said, elements of fana are necessary for baqa, to subsist by Allah, with Allah, for Allah, but fana is not all a necessary bridge to baqa, and baqa is the ultimate station of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions, subsisting by Allah, with Allah, for Allah, complete awareness of the reality around you that does not ever distract you from your connection to the Lord, and from your presence with the Lord, and from your subsistence by the Lord. قل قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. We will take 7 minutes.